All right, you squares. This is the way we're actually going to do this, right? Getting so much bullshit from this FD signifier response video idea, right? So we're going to do it this way. I really didn't feel like responding to a whole 2.5-hour video. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it portion by portion. Now, the first one, I responded the way I wanted to respond it. You know, people said it's emotional. You goddamn right it was, because I was pissed. Which is what the whole tone of the video was about. It's not going to be a logical point-by-point conversation, because that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to get this shit off my chest, because I'm getting tired of, number one, especially people, the learning people, the academics, man, doing this bullshit. Because Aaron Fountain did the same shit for about 5 or 6 years. Same bullshit. Have a whole lot of academics coming in with this half-ass I'm better than you bullshit, and don't even understand the scope of the problem, because they look down on you. They look down on you as part of the Manosphere, even though there's a whole lot of people in the Manosphere. In fact, there's one of my subs is a college professor. Okay, he just said it in the comment section. There's probably a whole lot more out there that don't say anything. These are college professors, these people with masters or PhDs that are academics, that are in this space. Now, they're not content creators, but guess what? How many of those PhDs on the other side that are commenting and basically poo-pooing the Manosphere are content creators? Because if they were, then we'd have something to go after. Okay, you're not a content creator because you don't want us going after you and slicing up your logic, because then we'd have a target, and you know that we would have a target. And a lot of the stuff that you guys spout will not hold up. Most things do not hold up against crowdsourcing or crowd research. And what's not being said is something I don't say. I got about 15 guys that do research for me on a daily basis for free, because they're trying to feed me information. I get 30 emails a day on various topics and subjects that I discuss. So even if I don't discover it, there's other people that discover it for me. Like for the past 8 months, man, I get a ton of shit on the Ukraine-Russian war. Tons of it. Most of it I don't even put up here because, one, it's a lot, and two, this administration is real sensitive about their propaganda. But to do a proper response, as you Negroes would want, because you guys don't afford us the same shit, because the stuff that you put up, you guys don't do proper responses to what we say. You guys do little small clips and little inside jokes and your broad analysis, but you expect us to do a proper takedown response of everything that you said. Because, number one, we didn't even know, for the most part, the people that are coming in, half the time we didn't even know who you guys are, which is probably why we don't pay attention to you. But that's not why we're here. We're actually here to do a proper response at the points of FD Signifier's video. So we're going to pull it up. And I know the first 10 or 15 minutes is bullshit. So, but we'll go through the first 10 or 15 minutes of bullshit, because that's what we do here. We're doing a point-by-point response, okay? So without further ado, let's pull up the video.
Success. It's got enemies, right? Of course, the enemies. So your success took a shot at you. What are you gonna do now? Are you gonna kill it? You're gonna become unsuccessful? Frank, we can be successful and have enemies, right? We can be unsuccessful too, you know, we can have friends. That's a choice we make.
As we proceed to give you what you need. Not five motherfuckers. Get live, motherfuckers. As we proceed to give you what you need. Not five.
Content warning.
So, this is not a bread tube video. This is not a left tube video. This is drama and mess to an extent. I don't know. When I first started writing this, it was actually a lot meaner and more mean-spirited, and I'm happy that once I got that out of my system, I was able to kind of come back to talk about this issue with more nuance and empathy and complexity, things that I believe in and that I'm known for, that I'm happy I am here to give, but maybe a little less this time around. This also won't be the perfect takedown of the Black Manosphere that I think people want, because why? Do you need specific understandings or reasons to take down the Black Manosphere? Maybe on some level, sure. And I'll probably get into some of that stuff.
And well, number one, the Black Manosphere can't be taken down. It can't be taken down, especially after escape velocity. In fact, for the most part, the Black Manosphere, after Kevin and after the propensity of the talking points being put out, other than the political stuff, probably doesn't need to exist because the mission has been accomplished. So taking down the Black Manosphere at this point will do you no good. Just like trying to take down Kevin, will do you no good. It's too late. Anyway.
But for the most part, as I looked into this world and researched it, the idea of battling with these folks seemed stupid and a waste of time and a waste of my energy, and really less important than examination of this space. And that's what this video is going to more be about, because I think it's more useful to understand the Black Manosphere, have some knowledge of its few virtues, and to get a better scope and understanding of its many.
If it's few virtues, yeah, shots fired, undertone shots fired. See, this is why the first video happened. All right, the so-called cool toned, understated shots that you fire at the Black Manosphere like we're idiots, like you are superior.
Many flaws. With that in mind, to my white fans, I ask that you chill out in the comments for this one. Not to be rude, but low key, this ain't none of y'all business in a weird way. That's one of the reasons why I never wanted to make this video. I don't mind taking a hit on views or the algorithm or whatever. This just feels like a weird topic area to broadcast as widely as my channel now broadcasts. Because this is going to be a very insular kind of in-house conversation, and you probably be missing a lot of context for it. Hell, a lot of Black folks, if you're under 25, will miss a lot of the context. So
actually they won't, but the thing is that white folks can comment on it, because what? You have Pearly in the UK using Black Manosphere talking points. Actually using Black Manosphere talking points. High value man is all over the place. This has been spread by white folks. Half of your white Manosphere content creators actually talk Kevin Samuel's talking points, Black Manosphere talking points, because we know where they were created. I was just listening to Rollo Tomasi. Half of what Rollo Tomasi was saying came out of the Black Manosphere because it came out of my mouth. The thing is that what Black Manosphere is getting tired of, you guys underestimating the space, which we know that you're going to do, which is why a lot of academics come through here and get their heads taken, and they learn from that. Ask L Magazine.
It is what it is. To my folks that usually stream or react to videos of mine, I ask that you leave this one off the menu, please and thank you. So many of you know that I released 3 hours worth of anti-manosphere content in the last couple of months, along with supplemental type stuff on my side channel. But only maybe about 15 minutes of this was specifically about the Black Manosphere. And this garnered maybe a dozen hours worth of response videos from various, mostly very small Black Manosphere channels. Most of these responses were overviews of the entire first video, which was really greatly not explicitly about the white manosphere, but about the force that wills it into existence. As such, there was a lot of nitpicking and a lot of completely agreeing, but acting like you don't agree with some of my points. Some classic misogyny, some homophobia, some transphobia.
If a Black woman would have kept her mouth shut back then, you will not be having World War I and World War II.
And not much in terms of critique that made me feel compelled to really respond. Except for the passionate and dedicated fans of some of these channels who have been all up in my comment section ever since, really embarrassing themselves, like begging for me to talk to their faves directly. I don't understand if y'all know how y'all look, but the more I look into the manosphere, I realize that a lot of these people don't understand how they are perceived by the rest of the world outside of the manosphere. Some dude.
Actually, we are. We hear it all the time. Look at the Medium, look at the comment sections, look at the response videos. If nothing else, the response to Kevin Samuels tells us how the rest of the world views us. So we know. Trust and believe we know. This ain't our first rodeo. People think that we just got here. It's been 15 years, and we know how YouTube views us because YouTube takes down our shit. So we know how the rest of the world views us. Trust and believe we know.
called me a coward, and I swear all I could hear was Mendark from Dexter's Laboratory.
Excuse me, sir, but may I please relocate myself to a closer location to the board so I can achieve the optimum effect of your education?
Just a lot of incredibly serious, balanced, logical men that, you know, I know they are, but really mad that I wasn't interested in talking to their favorite black incel creators. And really, I'd have probably left it at that if not for one point made in a piece, a 4-hour-long piece from two men whom I seem to share a decent amount of fan overlap with, making this particular point.
When I tell you I have hardcore Trump voting conservative, I got hardcore, black revolutionary. I got brothers who are liberal. I got brothers who are apolitical. I got brothers who are Hebrew Israelites, Muslims, who are atheists. You know what I'm saying? There's this, the one common factor that these men have.
I wonder what he's going to say. They're all connected together for what?
That they're concerned about the quality of life for black men and boys, and they're interested in being able to understand and articulate what we experience.
Concerned for black men and boys. Wow, that is not what I was expecting from this space, a space that spends so much time and energy complaining about black women. Concerned for black men and boys seems like a valiant reason to do anything. It's the reason why I do a lot of my content. So surely we have a lot more in common, right?
There is no leap of faith of starting OnlyFans. I'm sorry, bro. We have to culturally and especially genetically re-engineer black women, you guys. The only way we can do this is with non-black women and socially conservative black men.
We can't get together. When they go be a concubine to the 4 guys. I heard Scott talk about the 4 guys on the mating app. They're attracted to 4 guys. Well, go be their concubine. Bro, you know, if there's 50 women after 4 guys, then get in the rotation and shut up.
And now that the world is kicking your ass, now all of a sudden you can bear witness to it. You fucking disgust me. I said it before in my stream and I will say it again. We don't want submission, we want worship.
Ugh.
Yeah, we can. You know what? I could take any one of any feminist content creator, right? Tons of them. You know, we can look at Kim by For Harriet. We can go read just about any book that has a feminist content in it, and basically you can cherry pick negative shit they say even in their writings. Okay, even in their writings, we can cherry pick anything, and we can go back to the suffragettes, and Dr. Curry has, and you can find just unabashedly racist sentiments. You can go to the Combahee River collection, right? You can find very racist and basically misandrous sentiments and cherry pick them. Anybody can do that. That's why the first video, it was not about being fairness. So the thing is, you want to be fair, but you pull bullshit like this. You know, you call this fair. You're setting a tone. You call this fair. I'm sure I can go through your videos and pull out teasers, one-liners, okay? 10 seconds of anything, but that's academic. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, continuing.
We'll come back to that. That said, this criticism was not a nitpick or a misconstruing of my point. It was legit. Not the last part maybe, but the part where they called out how I had flattened all of the black manosphere into one easily digestible concept. I realized I did that, and that wasn't just wrong and inaccurate, it was also missing out on a lot of important and useful analysis to the issue of what the black manosphere specifically is and the unique problems it presents compared to its white counterpart. There's way more to the black manosphere than I initially gave credit for. It's all bad, mind you, like this isn't going to turn out the way I think people thought it was, but I do think there's a lot more to it to talk about.
It's all bad. And you thought that I was mischaracterizing what he was saying. Continuing.
But the fact that they wanted me to talk about it speaks volumes to how unaware many of these guys are that they would actually want me to go deeper into the history of this space, considering how cringe and embarrassing and crazy this space is. But they weren't wrong. I oversimplify some things. And I can't promise I won't do it again, because despite the runtime for this video, I still had to leave a lot of stuff out. I don't make 3-4 hour long reactions to other people's creations. I make my own. I'm what you call entertaining. So for the sake of entertainment, I had to leave some details out at times.
See, and the thing is, when I leave details out, guess what happens? Oh, you didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about this. When I flattened his responses to our video, guess what? Oh, you didn't give him a fair hearing. Just this first 15 minutes, like I said, first quarter of this video tells you why you got the first response video in the first place. This ain't my first rodeo.
I'm sure you guys will pause the video and fill in the gaps, but I'm gonna do my best. And I've also brought a few folks with me, as I often do, with a relatively wide perspective on the manosphere and its unique problems and how they relate to issues of black men in America in general.
When people come into the manosphere, there's always something going on in their personal lives. I mean, sometimes it can just be a money grab, and most of the time it can be like just social isolation, breakup, or just difficulties, in their dating lives. It varies. I don't know, because at the end of the day, you only see them when you turn the camera on.
That was something explicitly that people really bought into in the 80s. I think when it started switching over was when Run DMC eclipsed all the first old school acts. And then 5 years later, by the time you reach the late 80s, people like even Chuck D was out there saying hip hop is reclaiming black masculinity. Right. We need to see strong men because that's been pushed out of the culture. And as a teenager at that time, I bought into all that talk, Yeah. I think when you're of a certain age, even if you are intellectually curious and trying to study and learn, if everyone around you is working from the same fundamental assumptions, it can take time to step outside of that and say, well, why is that our baseline assumption?
We know our condition. We just may not have the tools or the frameworks to articulate it in a way to somebody who hasn't experienced it firsthand. I say that to say that you have a lot of young boys who know their condition, but they don't have an explanation for their condition. They don't have a framework to understand it. And so when they get somebody that has a platform and understands not only where they are, but can give them an explanation for why they're in the condition that they're in, they're going to go that way, especially if it's somebody that looks like them.
And it's going to sound a little abrupt thinking about it, but black men are never going to be seen as progressive enough. It doesn't matter what it is. If all the men today became empathic, understanding, and engaged in women's issues, the conditions and the situations that black communities still have to navigate as it relates to domestic violence and harm and incarceration will continue because they're systemic.
Yeah, and you know what? And this is something that Clark and Moynihan said back in in the 1960s, and you claimed it was killing the messenger. Where do you think the fucking term tango pathology came from? Clark said that. Clark said it was social pathology, and Clark said it was spreading, and Clark said it was spreading from what they call the lower classes, or the impactful 20% in the urban centers, and spreading to the rest of the rest of black culture. And by the time you get to the 80s, it's taken over the whole black culture. Now we're complaining about it. But the thing is, nobody wants to go back and eat their words that they, especially the black intelligentsia and the black academics, that fucking stomped all over that and then watched it happen. They watched the black community burn. But the thing is, they were too cowardly to take back what they were saying and come back in and fix it. Same thing with the feminists. Okay, you're too proud. You're too proud and too cowardly to go back and look back and see where we went off the road. No, we're just going to keep on going, and we try to see if it's going to fix itself down the road, right? So you go from 20% of out of wedlock births and 80% marriage rate to damn near 80% out of wedlock births and basically a 75%, a 25% marriage rate. Okay, and you think that came out of nowhere, and your white feminist counterparts helped it along? They didn't try to stop it, but then you blame black men for it happening. Oh, it's black male misogyny. It's black male. It's black male pathology, and we don't know where it comes from. It's just systemic. Get the fuck out of here. That's why I put that first video out, because you motherfuckers didn't actually tell the truth about what was going on because you wanted to keep your fucking job. That's what happened. That's what I'm saying right here. Well, they didn't have a framework. God damn, after 60 years, you should be able to build a framework. Okay. Kanjufu said it. Okay. Wilson said it. Clark said it. Moynihan said it. How many people do you need to actually tell you what to do to build a framework? What good is black intelligentsia and all these high degrees and all these PhDs in social science? Because trust and believe, you guys are not into STEM. You tell me you can't build a framework? This is embarrassing. The thing is, you're embarrassing yourself. You put up people, you're embarrassing yourself. Black boys and black men, people don't have a framework. What the fuck have you guys been doing for the last 60 years?
And those systemic factors create attitudinal assumptions on black men. So we could gather all the men in the world, black men, and have them move in a certain way, but because how black men are seen and understood is ideological, that's going to persist.
I want to put out there.
Actually, it's not going to persist, because guess what we're doing in the black manosphere? We're changing the narrative. We're changing the narrative. Now, they've been looking at black men forever like that. But guess what the black men are going to say? We're going to change our own narrative. We're not going to allow people to say what we are. You might not like it. You might not like what we do. You might not like what we say. But guess what we're going to do? We're going to change the narrative. And trust and believe, Kevin Samuels was he was the tip of the spear. He was the tip of the iceberg. The rest of the iceberg is going to come afloat. It's going to come to the surface. And then you're going to have something to reckon with. Because trust and believe, the Z's, the boys that you're talking about, they're not having this.
That their participation in this research in no way is an endorsement of my rhetoric or opinions. I've heard that some of you Black Manosphere folks can be a little catty, a little, maybe dare to say, unmanly when conflict arises. So I don't want them to be the target of your ire. This is an FD signifier production. That said, I know you guys don't want me to preamble for 15 minutes.
No, these academics didn't call us catty. No, they didn't. No, they didn't call us catty and the rest of that stuff and ranking ire. Trust and believe, we done got plenty of that from academics, right? Have people fired for simply showing or stating anything that's counter to the feminist narrative. Fired. Had their jobs taken. Why do you think most of the Black manosphere hide their identity? Because they will get fired. So we're the ones that catty. Get the fuck out of here.
We're going to jump right on in.
How come you ain't never liked me?
Like you? Who the hell said I got to like you? What law is there say I got to like you? Want to stand up in front of my face and ask a damn fool-ass question like that? Talking about liking somebody. Come here, boy, when I talk to you.
Gonna win, yeah, well, take it over. Come on!
All of my initial opinions about the manosphere that I discussed in the previous videos still stand. The manosphere, Black or otherwise, is at its core a byproduct of men aligned to a specific performance of masculinity under patriarchy, a performance that they aren't good at, and so they seek a variety of ways to improve said performance or to cope with the consequences of what a poor performance of masculinity,
which is what women ask for. Which is what women ask for. Go read The Richer Sex. Go read The End of Men. There's a couple of more books you can read. This is what women ask for. Okay? You spent 50 years, 72, 22, 50 years re-socializing boys and men into feminists. Most, and Rollo Tomasi just said, most men, if you went to school, especially if you started school after 1972, which is Gen X, were raised and socialized to be feminists. Raised and socialized to be feminists. And guess what? The reason you're having a backlash is because the shit that was taught to them did not work. Because even the feminists say that they still want a performance of patriarchy. Okay, they want patriarchy light. They want the benefits of patriarchy without the responsibilities. The thing is, guess what? The women on the other side, them bitches have not lived up to their responsibility as an equal partner. Schlafly in 1976. Okay, She wanted ERA because she wanted feminists to have the equal rights and equal responsibilities in society. If you wanted equal rights and you want equal privileges, you have to have equal responsibilities. Guess what feminists didn't want? Especially the conservative feminists, which nobody talks about, which most women that call themselves feminists, that think they're really liberal, are not. They're conservative. Why? Because they still want the benefits of patriarchy. They still want men to give them shit. That's the benefits of patriarchy. They still want men to pay the bills. Why do you think Kevin Samuels was actually so impactful? Why do you think women lined up night after night and gave him money? Because they wanted their patriarchy. Most women do not want a supportive male. They don't want those kind of men. They don't. And the guys that line up here are the ones that the feminist system actually broke, and now they want us to fix them. Anyhow, continuing.
Means for them. This coping usually comes in the form of vilifying, demonizing, or just generally blaming women and possibly falling deeper into more harmful, more fringe, or more regressive, or possibly even aggressive belief systems that can turn into violence. However, the blackness in the Black Manosphere adds numerous layers of complexity to this framework. For one, being a black male automatically disqualifies you from ever reaching true hegemonic status in a white supremacist society. As I said before, even the most successful, traditionally masculine, educated, moneyed, good-looking black men will be routinely subjugated to racial indignity
and also the gynocracy, the matriarchal pattern that exists inside the black community. In other words, you get mommied by your own women, okay? Still today, you get mommied by your own women, and your women do nothing to reverse that because they don't want to. They like it this way. In fact, more of your white men will get mommied by their women because white women want the same kind of power that black women have. Continuing.
Mission under a white supremacist hierarchy on the basis of being black alone, let alone any other thing that might intersect with that black male identity. See Ryan Coogler being handcuffed and detained for simply trying to withdraw money from a bank. Terry Crews being sexually assaulted and then publicly blamed for his own assault. Or the entire presidency of Barack Obama, where he was still met with racial indignity as the most powerful man in the world. Regardless of a black man's status and behavior, he will never be a real man under white supremacy. However, that doesn't stop a lot of us from trying.
Actually, I got a whole video taken down by YouTube because I said that. A whole video dealing with Dr. Curry's work that actually said that. I got a whole video taken down by YouTube and got a strike. Had something similar by Green Gorilla, who's a PhD in philosophy, had another strike, another video taken down. So yeah, it does go on there. Yeah, we have said it. Multiple people have said that. But that's not the nuance of the manosphere, or especially the black manosphere. Why do you think black men came to the black manosphere? Because the white manosphere, for the most part, does not understand nor cater to our unique experience. Because just because their patriarchy is pretty much gone, right? Which is what they're rebelling against, because their women still expect them to uphold a patriarchy that doesn't exist anymore. And then black women expect us to uphold a patriarchy that never existed in the black community. But the thing is, we have to discuss this. And we have to argue this out because black men have been brainwashed by their women to believe that they're patriarchal. Still to this day. And I had to go back and look up the fucking definition and the fucking structure of a real patriarchy and see why it fell and its slow demise over time. Patriarchy doesn't exist. Okay. The only thing that patriarchy is good for is the social interaction between men and women that white women still expect. And I don't get taken out on dates anymore. They don't protect me like they used to. We don't get courted. We don't have the same kind of relation. No, you don't, because that's not what you wanted. And the real hardcore feminists are trying to tell you that you got to, basically, bitch, get over it. This is a system that we set up, and you're going to have to make do with it. And the biggest detractors of feminism to keep it from advancing, or what we call the egalitarian society from advancing, is not men. It's actually women. It should work. Men would actually go along with it. Shit doesn't work.
Best case scenario, we redefine masculinity and manhood to fit our reality and our needs or the needs of our communities. But it's probably a lot more common that many black men fall into scripts about masculinity that we've been fed by our elders or media or society as a whole. And this leads to a lot of conflict.
Fed? Who defines masculinity? Who defines it? Your society defines masculinity. The world defines masculinity, right? And unless you can find a different kind of masculinity someplace in the world that may or may not exist, the definition of masculinity is pretty much universal, and it's not necessarily defined or performed like you post-structuralists actually want to say. You think that gender is just something that's performative until you run up against the biology of it? Continuing.
In our own experiences with the world around us and with black women who also greatly desire a performance of us that is similar to white patriarchy. And this is where much of this
there you go, similar to white patriarchy, but you're blaming the black manosphere. You're blaming the black manosphere trying to achieve something that the world wants out of, or a level of this kind of super masculinity that the black women want, because they want what they think the white man is, even though the white man isn't that. That's what I call the myth of white womanhood. But I know you're not even going to touch that series. Not even touch that series. Continuing.
Conflict arises. The fact that black men are essentially being held to a standard of patriarchal performance that they cannot keep up with, even from many black women, especially in the modern day where black women are gaining access to higher levels of education and economic status that black men are more intensely barred from.
Exactly. So basically, guess where the problem lies? Okay, is it the men or the women? You're saying it out of your own mouths. It ain't the men. It ain't the men. But when we actually state this and talk about this, guess what happens? All of a sudden, we hate women. We're misogynist. We're toxic. We're all of these things when we complain about it. We're all of these things. The educated lame piece that went on, it's still going on. Educated lame wars. When you do try to perform a different kind of masculinity in the black community, guess what happens? Your women don't want you. Your women call you nerds. They call you lames. They call you educated. They call you white. And then they blame you if you go outside of the culture to go get a woman that's more aligned to who you are and your personality. Make that make sense, FD. But we're going to skip over that because women are held blameless. Keep going. That's out of your own mouth. I guess you don't listen to yourself.
When you combine that conflict with legitimate issues in the family court system and a modern media landscape, especially social media, that makes black men feel disempowered in speaking up effectively, you see where the black manosphere gets most of its juice. Because at its core, the black manosphere is a battering ram for this frustration, for this conflict, to butt against black women and blame them and attack them because they're an easier target than white supremacy.
Those are the women that are right in front of you doing the stuff to you. So I got a black woman with a rolling pin upside my head, but I'm gonna go jump on a white man. You can't start at the top. You got to start with the lower boss first before you get to the big boss. Especially when the lower boss was your black woman actually protecting the big boss. Because that's what we've been saying. Black women actually guard dogs for white supremacy. But we're not gonna say that, are we? Saying the same shit. You know what I've been saying is you're saying the exact same shit that we've heard for the last 15 years, just coming out of your mouth. Anyway, continuing.
Especially for a lot of these men who have had certain views or certain experiences inform how they see the world. Now, here is where we're going to have a pause the video moment. Y'all didn't know this is going to be an interactive video, did you? Many of these black manosphere guys are clout chasers and very thirsty for attention, and they will react to this on their channels, or they're fans who are really a lot like Debate Bro fans, just really thirsty, really get off to the idea that their fave is the big brain, and they will pretty much require their favorite black manosphere figure to respond to this video. Thus, I can expect that this video, much like my last manosphere videos, will get lots of attention and airplay on these channels. And so I want to be helpful and also put you in kind of a weird catch-22 and just give you prompts to pause the video and offer your counter arguments when they seem most appropriate. Here in particular, it'll be interesting because, truth be told, there is a relatively wide variety of belief systems in the manosphere, aside from the one core belief, which we'll get to later. And we can expect that some figures in the Black manosphere will argue the virtue and validity of patriarchy, maybe the natural order of men versus women, and maybe they'll pull up some religious angle that helps justify this. Maybe they'll talk about some really explicitly succinct element of history or African history that supports their point without pointing out the vast variety of pieces of history that do not. This also might get low-key homophobic for them. I don't know. Others will come with the classic, we're not a monolith.
We're not a monolith. What? No, we're not. In fact, Black Republicans alone are an extremely diverse group of people.
To point out that while a lot of the Black manosphere is undeniably conservative, regressive, and reactionary, that there are others that are more left-leaning or at least centrist and don't desire an explicit connection to traditional white patriarchy, but more so desire freedom and self-determination as a Black man. That it's an intersectional feminist falsehood that Black men seek white patriarchal power. Valiant and admirable points, all of them, if not for the fact that when you look through a lot of these guys' content, what you mostly see is what I'll call Black women's cringe content that explicitly seeks to characterize Black women as degenerate or evil or stupid or hating of Black men. And although I want to be very clear, these stories and these Black women do exist, as I said in the previous video about Abba and Preach, when a large chunk of your content is explicitly designed to create a specific narrative about a group of people, it makes it obvious what your agenda is. These videos serve as ways for them to signal their misogyny to each other.
That's not a way to signal misogyny to each other. That's what what do Black women say about Black men on a continuous basis? We're violent, we're abusive, we beat up on them, and they're victims, right? They're victim of male violence. They're victim of male domestic violence, right? They say that all the time. And they try to claim that we're the violent ones and they do nothing. They don't put hands on you. They don't cause any ruckus. They don't start fights. They don't do any of that kind of stuff, right? That's what the videos are for. But as I said, the way that you're going to frame it, and people keep saying, oh, you got to go through the video and go point by point and listen to what he said because that's uninformed. He's doing exactly what I thought he would do. He's doing exactly what I thought he would do. Now, I'm going to go through the whole video, but pretty much, in my opinion, from what I heard from people that I trust, me going through this video is pretty much a waste of time. He's just going to reiterate the same talking points. He's actually going to basically reverse the actual reason we actually do this kind of stuff. Because most Black women don't believe that they put hands on people, put hands on Black men. They don't believe that shit. And the first you see a Black feminist, when you get together, a Black academic, I've just heard that, okay? It's a few months ago, maybe a year ago, right? And they're sitting down trying to talk about how to mend the fence between Black men and Black women, right? And the first thing she says, first thing we have to get around is keep you niggas from beating on us. That's a narrative that goes around as a trope throughout the whole Black community, even among Black academics. Dr. Curry has to continually pull out IPV reports about domestic violence between black males and females continuously. Dr. Johnson, at least every other week, has to pull these reports. And the thing is, a trope keeps going around that Black women are continually abused by Black men, but they are like innocent victims, right? That's why you see those videos. But he's doing exactly what I thought he would do. This is not surprising to me. There are people saying, well, you gave an emotional response. Yes, I gave an emotional response because you can basically telegraph what he's getting ready to say by the first few minutes. The reason that they do this is because they're trying to support misogyny and they're trying to be regressive, and they're trying to recruit Black men to believe that a certain thing about a group of women. Okay, if that was the case, man, go take down World Star Hip Hop, because that's where the half of this stuff comes from. It's actually supported by Black women, actually cheered on by Black women. This kind of behavior that you just saw is actually cheered on by Black women. Continuing.
And justify it. Because of course, why wouldn't Black men feel a certain way about Black women if every video they see is of a Black woman doing something degenerate or harmful or stupid or whatever?
in case you ain't heard it, but the price of has skyrocketed. Okay.
I can already tell by the length of the eyelashes, in conjunction with the dexterity of the forehead bangs, that this will not be an intellectually riveting conversation.
So regardless of the variety of spectrums you may see in the Black Manosphere from a political standpoint, I don't give much credit to any assertion that any of you are anything but misogynists at your core. And I'll pause here for your response.
Yeah, all right, that's exactly, you can pause here for my response. That's exactly what I thought you would say. That's exactly what I thought you would say. And you're either brainwashed or cowardly, because I don't care how much you write, how much you show, how much you prove, that winter soldier chip will go off in black men's minds and the same shit will come out. The exact same shit will come out. The city girls, the thought culture is all blamed on black men. Whatever comes out of a black woman's mouth, these are just isolated incidents. The same is not thought when it comes to black men. So you pausing and you saying it is exactly what I thought you would say, how you would spin it, which is why I tell my subs, what is he saying that's any different than's been said over the past 15 years? You're saying exactly the same shit that I've been hearing over the past 30 years, believe it or not, since Shahrazad Ali's book came out in what, 88, 89? Okay. They said the same thing back then. It hasn't changed. This stuff has been going on for 9 to 40 years. The same shit. The thing that we had to go through with the Monahan report, the same shit. Because you want to spin it, it's a belief, it's a worldview. That's like Sergeant Willie Pete says, man, get your fucking passports and bail out of this. You're not going to change this. So I've been encouraging black men to leave these shores anyway. Get away from this toxic place. Get away from your toxic women, because this system is baked in. And I've said it a long time ago. You ain't going to change these broads. You're not going to change their minds. It's embedded into the culture. And this brother is a product of the same culture. But what would you have from an intersectional feminist that has been brainwashed by the system, by the same system that he calls white supremacy? You think that your education is not a white supremacist education? Really? Continuing. We got about, okay.
All that aside, the element of blackness still has to be considered in discussing the Black Manosphere and differentiating it from its white counterpart, which is why I first want to point out that figures like an Andrew Tate or Fresh and Fit or Abba and Preach really shouldn't be considered part of the Black Manosphere, which I think members of, we'll say, the core or first wave of the Manosphere would appreciate me pointing out. While all of these men might be considered black and surely have a black audience, I wouldn't call them by any stretch pro-black or even presenting as pro-black, except for maybe Ab and Preach, but they're like very fringe in this regard. Tate in particular just happens to look like a swole Damon Wayans, but nothing about him and his content has any type of racial framing. Fresh and Fit are obviously racialized as black men, but both are pretty conservative and openly anti-black at times, not just towards black women, but also employing typical conservative sellout narratives about victim mentality and not seeing color and whatever other bullshit.
Hey guys, the truth, uncomfortable truth nobody wants to hear. The common enemy is the white man. That's what everyone is trying to say. Oh, they have all the privileges. You're white privilege. You're white man. If you're a white male, heterosexual, WASP, you are a public enemy number one in the United States nowadays. I'm saying this as a colored guy. It's tough out here for them. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna attack them, right? This is exactly what Hitler did. I'm here to tell you guys that I think affirmative action a lot of time is BS.
In fact, Fresh and Fit are so coonish that they were officially excommunicated from the Black Manosphere, as official as this can be, by one of the...
They never were part of the Black Manosphere. They didn't start there. They never said they were part of the Black Manosphere. And the only time they even started to be part of the Black Manosphere, or even want to broach kind of on the sidelines of the Black Manosphere, is Kevin Samuels. They never were part of the Black Manosphere. But the thing is, when you flatten everything, then you don't realize that they never were. Abba and Preach were never part of the really part of the Manosphere, period. I mean, they're content creators. They're not part of the Manosphere. They really never were. Everybody that's red pill, the so-called red pill content creators, are not part of the Manosphere. In other words, just like in a gang sign, they never claim their set. Aberdeen Preach never claimed their set, right? They never said they were part of the Black Manosphere. Weren't brought in by them. In fact, they actually brought in by Rollo Tomasi more than anybody else. In fact, their rabbi, okay, actually said they weren't part of the Manosphere, period. They are shock jocks. They are frat boys. And that's what you get from well, not necessarily Aberdeen and Preach, which is more like general, like the roommates, but Fresh and Fit, they were never part of the Black Manosphere. The thing is, because they look a certain way, everybody groups us in. Skin folks ain't kin folks, as they say. Continuing.
Original founding figures of the pre-modern Black Manosphere, O'Shea, Duke, Jackson.
They don't need to be in the Manosphere at all. These guys need to be gone.
O'Shea, Duke, Jackson. O'Shea, Duke, Jackson. Okay, so before I go any further, I need to get something off my chest. Niggas in the Black Manosphere have hilarious names. While I'm no way some champion of thoughtful naming practices, I feel pretty good about Feek the Signifier, aka FD Signifier. Like, I didn't start it with a lot of forethought.
What kind of fucking name is Feek? What kind of name is Feek? FD Signifier? FD Signifier probably covers up a lot of I thought it was Fred. I thought it was something more profound. Feek. Oh, okay. Anyway, man, I'm continuing. Talk about funny name. That's a funny name, dude. You have no business clowning on names with a name like Feek.
And when I started understanding more about branding and name recognition, I recognized that FD, had a better malleability than Feek the Signifier because it's shorter. Anyway, my point is, I give myself a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10 if I'm, being.
Try 4.
Unfair maybe to myself. Everyone's name doesn't have to have a great meaning or anything, but I cannot help that members, especially of the old Black Manosphere, have names that are somewhere between a Black superhero and a Black porn star, such as Sergeant Willie Pete, Angry Man, The Green Gorilla, Mumia Obsidian Ali, O'Shea Duke Jackson.
Well, O'Shea Duke Jackson come from what? O'Shea, Ice Cube's son. That's where the O'Shea comes from.
And BGS Ibmore. And I'm sure that one must mean something important. I
think I typed it too. It's called Black Gnostic Speaks, which comes from my original channel. It's nothing important. It just says who I am as a religion. Black Gnostic. Black Gnosticism.
I'm sure this is a huge gotcha moment for BGS. He was like, see, the nigga didn't even know that BGS stood for Black Girls Suck. I don't know. I don't know what it means. I'm sure it means something important, bro. I'm sure. That said, unless you're deep in the Black Manosphere, which I assume very few of you are, you probably have never even heard of those names, which is mostly a good thing. But also, this is somewhat unfair to them in a weird way, because I think those guys and a bunch of other names I'm not even going to bother to mention would want to make it very clear that they are the real Black Manosphere and not guys like
some guys do, but most guys like me don't care. Like me and Green Gorilla. Now Green Gorilla got put in. Green Gorilla just got here, okay? But I'm glad he got some kind of sway. And a couple of names that were left out, I'm glad they got left out because he missed a few. Sergeant Willie Pete is an OG. There's a whole bunch of other OGs that are out there that you didn't name, but that's good. That's cool. But anyway, man, most guys didn't want to go mainstream. That was a big thing. People thought that everybody wanted to go mainstream. I'm one of the few that actually wanted to go mainstream. And most people do not care. Most of the guys that are content creators do not care outside of this little bubble what people think about them or whether people actually know about them. Actually, a lot more people know about Angry Man and Green Gorilla and O'Shea Duke Jackson and the other cohorts than you actually think. In fact, most of the people that you would think that would not even know about us, you'd be surprised where our talking points and where we as content creators actually wind up. In fact, I think it was a few years ago, there were doctors inside of hospital, and 2 white doctors, as a matter of fact, talking about Angry Man and actually mentioning his talking points. Kevin just happens to be more popular. But the thing is, for the most part, nobody really cares about the names. What we care about is talking points, and the talking points are spreading. High value men is there's a whole bunch of stuff that's actually going to come behind high value men. There's a whole bunch of things that are actually going to change as far as the parental child custody laws. Okay, nobody actually knows about the custody of infants except to the people inside the manosphere, because the broader white manosphere, they don't know about that stuff. But guess what? They will. They will. This stuff is spreading. It's spreading quickly. Andrew Tate would not be Andrew Tate without Kevin Samuels. And now you take down Andrew Tate, the rest of the iceberg is going to come up. It's going to rise up out of the ocean. But anyway, we're coming up on an hour. I want to edit this down. So this is probably going to be like part 1. Hopefully it doesn't have too many parts. And this is going to go on my smaller channel. I'm going to let him finish up, and then we're going to...
Fresh and Fit or mediocre tutorials, or maybe even a Steph is Cold. Although Steph is Cold is, I think, an official member of the Black Manosphere from what my research showed me, but he's definitely, from my perspective, part of a newer wave operating in a mostly separate space that I'll get into a bit later. So the question is, why would I bring those guys up and even have art commissioned for them? Especially considering how small they are. Why do they matter? Why are they important? To explain, we got to get into some deep lore. Dr. Aaron G. Fountain was working through his PhD when he started running a YouTube channel called Exposing the Manosphere.
When you brought up Aaron G. Fountain, that's a mistake already. But we'll let this play. We'll let this end it.
Which was an offshoot of his graduate studies and freelance journalism work. And he covered the rise of the alt-right in the late 2010s. And in the middle of that, discovered and started to chronicle what was going on in the Black Manosphere. He, like myself, wasn't overly interested in debunking them, but just kind of like, I mean, look at these niggas.
If a black woman would have kept her mouth shut back then, you would not be having World War I and World War II.
Now, in the beginning, that's when I have something like, so, I mean, you're kind of correct that there is definitely like a much earlier origin point of like talk radio. I would also say television too, of like, gender war conflict. It's just the origin of the Black Manosphere, at least on YouTube, it actually starts in 2008 inadvertently, when YouTube is still this very nascent social media platform that people just don't know how to use properly. And in the video on history of video, I just have like just some conflict about interracial dating that kind of sparks these videos and response videos, which you could do on YouTube at the time. And out of that, you just see like this small, when I mean small, they got barely any views. I've seen some of the original videos, like way less than 1,000. Just these small YouTubers just talking about dating dynamics and like Black culture. And they pretty much use a lot of these early talking points that still circulate in the space.
Since then, he's archived this.
All right. We'll end it there. We'll start up right with Aaron Fountain, because I have problems with Aaron Fountain. And I also have problems with them not really understanding what the space is about, which I'm not surprised. Okay. They got a lens, and I always say that the lens that you use to look at the world is your own worldview, right? What is the hardest thing that has to change in a man or any person, right? Is their worldview. It can't be changed overnight. It takes a whole lot of time. And in fact, my mentor, he said that he was FD signifier back when he was in grad school. So he kind of understands. And he didn't know the impact of what the intersectional feminism was having on Black boys until he actually had to teach these boys in class and see the effect. That's what changed him. But anyhow, with that, I'm going to jump off here. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next part. Peace.